You ever notice how some of the smartest, most insightful people you know seem to have a really small circle of friends? It kind of feels like a paradox, doesn't it? Well, today we're going to dive into the fascinating psychology behind why that might actually be the case and what it tells us about what true connection is all about. Just think about the last party or social gathering you went to. Did you get that feeling, the one, where you're just a little bit out of sync with everyone else? Maybe the small talk felt totally pointless, like you were on a completely different wavelength? If that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone. But what if that feeling isn't about being antisocial at all? What if, like this quote says, it's just about having a really low tolerance for inauthenticity? I mean, that changes everything, right? It suggests the problem isn't some kind of social failing on your part, but actually a deep need for genuine connection, the kind that's often really hard to find.
And that leads us right into our first big idea, the intellectual mismatch. And the subtitle here is so important. This isn't about social failure. It's about being on a different wavelength. The whole idea is that this social friction doesn't come from a personal flaw, but from a really fundamental difference in how some minds are just wired.
So what even is an intellectual mismatch? Well, think of it like trying to run a brand new piece of software on an old, incompatible operating system. It just doesn't work right. You might be craving conversations that go deep, that explore really complex topics, while everyone around you is perfectly happy just skimming the surface. It's not that one way is better than the other. They're just different. But that gap can make real connection feel like an uphill battle. And look, this isn't just some random theory. There's actual psychological research that points to this. Some studies have found a really fascinating link. As a person's intelligence level goes up, their reported satisfaction with frequent social interaction actually goes down. It turns out they often get that fulfillment and stimulation from other places, which totally changes the whole social game for them. All right, on to our second point. One of the biggest signs of this intellectual mismatch really comes down to how people talk. It's this strong preference for deep talk over small talk. It's all about searching for real, meaningful stimulation. Let's really break down the difference here. Small talk, it has its purpose. It's a social lubricant. It fills the silence. But for a mind that's hungry for something more, it can be absolutely draining. You walk away feeling empty. But deep talk, that's fuel. It's about getting into abstract ideas, real feelings, and building understanding. The result isn't draining at all. It's stimulating, it's fulfilling. That's where the magic happens. Now, this preference for depth doesn't just stop with conversations. It actually starts to shape a person's entire view on happiness. Which brings us to our third idea, emotional self-reliance. This is all about finding fulfillment from inside yourself. Now, being emotionally self-reliant, that doesn't mean you're cold or that you don't like people. Not at all. It just means you're comfortable in your own head. You don't need a constant stream of likes or approval from others because you get real stimulation from your own projects, your hobbies, your ideas. This naturally makes you prioritize the quality of your friendships over the sheer number of them. And it means you can be perfectly happy being alone, which, and this is key, is a world away from being lonely. Okay, so when you start putting all these pieces together, you've got the intellectual mismatch, the craving for deep conversation, and this emotional self-reliance, you end up with a totally new way of looking at solitude. It stops being about forced isolation. Instead, it becomes a conscious, deliberate, intellectual choice. And here it is, the big takeaway from all of this. If you're someone who has a smaller, tighter circle of friends, it is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Far from it. In fact, it's often a sign of a mind that just refuses to settle for superficial stuff, a mind that values depth, authenticity, and connections that are actually meaningful. So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. We live in a world that's obsessed with numbers, right? Follower counts, friend lists. But maybe we're using the wrong ruler. What really matters more? The quantity of friends you can count, or the quality of the conversations that make you feel truly, deeply seen and understood?